This is the Bowls of Life podcast. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Virginia. As we've gone through life, we've learned something important.
What did we learn? That life is messy.
It gets complicated.
But we've learned that we could create tools to help us jump into the mess of life and make an adventure of it.
Welcome to our messy adventures of faith, family, and food.
I was starting to just kind of mess with you, but then I really messed myself up more than I messed you up.
Well, the smile got me.
Yeah, I like to smile big. It's a hosting moment thing that I try to do,
Yeah.
10% more than where you want to be, that because the audience brings it down 10% or whatever. All that kind of made up percentages.
It just made me laugh.
That's fair. Hey, tell the people what you saw in a side alley of Hot Springs, Arkansas that you're currently sitting on. Oh, the laugh makes it best.
We are walking down Central Avenue, which is Bathhouse Row in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
We were there for our 10-year wedding anniversary.
Yes. And someone had put out some furniture, and it caught my eye because I was like, oh, somebody got rid of furniture. And I recognized it immediately. It was literally this. Okay, not literally. It was literally the same pattern
as our couch.
It existed in somebody else's property.
It did. Yeah, and then they threw it in the back alley and clearly left it to be. I actually found the sale ticket underneath it one time. I can't remember what the year was. I kept the ticket for the longest time. I think our kids finally got a hold of it because it was just kind of free floating on top of our piano back there. So I'm sure it got eaten or something, knowing our children.
Oh, yeah, it rothered away.
That's also possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it showed the sale year. I want to say it was like 79 or 82.
Yeah, I think so. I think like it was 70s.
Right, late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah,
this couch was originally sold. But because no one ever sat on it, because it was in like a condition. Church parsonage kind of area. Not parsonage,
like
foyer.
A foyer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, parsonage is where a pastor lives.
Or a, what do they call them? Parlor.
Office. Parlor. Parlor feels like the right word.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
at the Methodist Church in Quitman.
No one ever sat on it, so it's still in great condition.
Great condition, but I laughed. I was like, Tyler, it's our couch.
It was.
And sure enough, and looking at it, yes, it was the exact same pattern.
I feel like it had a little more green in it than this one does.
No.
But that may have just also been because it was outside in natural sunlight, and this thing lives in here.
It was this couch.
Yeah. It's good times.
That was funny. I was like, what? What did I see in the alley? I saw some Hot Springs.
I always try to really throw you off at the beginning of these podcasts, and I did it twice already in this episode, so I'm doing great.
Hey, we could do an episode on what to do in Hot Springs.
We could, but that's not this episode. No, what is this episode, Virginia?
Today we're going to talk about feeding your family and how feeding is parenting.
How feeding is parenting.
That's like one of the points.
Yeah.
But I think that is an overarching umbrella for what the rest of what I'm going to say can fall under.
Okay. So expound on that statement then.
Okay.
Feeding is parenting.
So as parents, we teach our children, we train up our children in the way we want them to go, right? And so we think about parenting when it comes to like their behavior, their manners, how they respond to one another, and how they treat other people. We parent them through conflict and hardship and all that sort of stuff. And we're teaching them. We're modeling for them the way that we want them to respond. So if you don't want your child to respond, to you, then you shouldn't respond, to them.
Or anyone else.
Or anyone else. And so, we are modeling for them what we want them to do. We are teaching them through their experiences with hopefully the understanding that they are very inexperienced because they're children, right? Yep. And so as they grow and learn, the best place and safest, hopefully, place for them to do that is in the home with their parents. So we think of it in a lot of those. We think of parenting with those types of topics and things, but I don't think we think about it when it comes to eating or feeding your children as a part of parenting.
Okay.
And I was introduced to that idea, I can't quote it exactly, but I remember I was researching, and it was from the Ellen Satter Institute, which I will talk more about. That's basically where a lot of anything I say today is going to come from. Okay. Also, the experience I have with families. Ellen Satter. Yeah.
She couldn't get any gladder.
Satter.
Satter with T's.
Satter, yeah. Okay. Ellen Satter Institute .org if you want to go to the website. So, anyways, a lot of like what I say will be from what I learned, and I'll explain more of that later. But it'll also be from my experience as a parent and my experience as a dietitian working with families. So if you're listening to this episode and you don't have children, or you're not feeding a family with kids in it, don't necessarily think that you can tap out. You can for this episode, but a lot of things that I will say will also apply to us as adults when it comes to maybe more of the eating part.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I suspect much of it will come around the idea of what you do is what they'll do. What they see in you, and thus there's plenty for any adult to take from this, because it'll mostly be about what you do.
What you do, yeah.
Then it trickling down to others around you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think anybody could probably get something out of this episode, and I don't know how long we'll chat about it.
Yeah. We'll just go and see what happens. So
if we have to break it into two, we will, but I could talk about it forever. It's just a matter of, can me and Tyler flesh it out?
Flesh it out.
Let's go. Hash it out? Maybe that's what I meant to say.
Both of those are accurate.
Hash it out.
Yeah.
At 9:30 p.m. on a Wednesday night.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into it then. So you talked about that we set the table for how our kids will eat as adults.
Yes, and the pun was intended.
Yes.
Yeah, so again, kind of going back to that feeding is parenting, like we as their parents we have to set the table. We have to set them up for success when it comes to learning how to eat, and remembering that it's not about how they're going to eat in this moment, but it's how they're going to eat as adults who feel safe and confident in what they're doing. And so what we do now is about teaching them to become, teaching them to grow into the body and the adult that we want them to be. Because that's most of parenting. Which, again, we have to remind ourselves that they're not going to have it figured out right now because they're inexperienced and they don't know.
I need them to, though.
Right? But we're training our children to become adults. We just have to remember that they're children first. Key in much of parenting.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. We're trying to set them up to be, citizens, like life-giving, contributing citizens of their community and their own household when they become adults. And adults who will take care of themselves and who will feed themselves and feed themselves well. So we set the table when it comes to eating. So we model for our children what we want them to do. Again, like anything you do as a parent, your children will mimic. And, it's funny because even if your kids, say your kids are going to daycare most of the day, going to school most of the day, they're most influenced by their parents.
Right.
I'm sure there's like an actual like scientific, psychological piece of evidence I could give there, but I don't have that. But we know that like your kids are most influenced by their parents or the people in their household, which of course they get influenced by the people outside the household. So you definitely want to be I think I've heard it termed as like, is it gateway? or gatekeeping.
Yes.
Gatekeeping yes. of what you teach your children in the house, so that when they go out into the world, and they're, they see other things or hear other things, that they can filter that well, or learn from it, and even come back home and talk about it if they need to.
Yep.
So as parents, we have to model the behaviors and the habits that we want our children to show. And we talked about habits of the household.
Right, absolutely.
The book by Justin Whitmore Early. That was a whole series. If you haven't listened to it previously,
you should.
You should. Yeah, it's really good. And then also read the book. But there are habits that we have in our household that, again, set our children up for success in the areas that we want them to succeed in. You think about like faith and their own individual walk with the Lord. Well, your kids aren't just gonna one day decide to be Jesus followers without any sort of setting up, right? So in the house, we choose to go to church. We choose to do family devotions. We choose to pray. We choose to, do the spiritual practices, so that will form our children, so that they can make their individual decision about faith, right?
Yeah.
So to bring it back to food, setting the table, in this pun, is about also literally like setting the table, making sure that mealtimes is prioritized, that you are providing for your children. And if you don't provide for yourself, you're going to have a hard time providing for your children. So if you are struggling with feeding yourself, like consistently, and well-nourished meals, well-balanced meals, if you're having trouble with skipping meals or going too long without eating, like if you as an adult don't have it figured out, your poor kids are going to suffer.
Yeah,
they don't steer the ship. We do.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I think about my time in high school. The end of my high school, it was just me and my mom at home. My stepdad was off working pretty much most of my senior year of high school, and there were a lot of times we really didn't eat supper because that was just kind of the phase my mom was in that moment.
Right.
So I might fill up, like I might eat half a box of Cheez-Its, but like that was what I did for supper, or we didn't really have much of a supper, or we went out and ate, which was a default for my mom, and even being completely and utterly broke is still a default for me if I don't catch myself, is to go out and eat, because that was what she modeled for me.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. I mean, it forms you and sticks with you. And I mean, I'm not going to get too much in like all the different like ways that could manifest in your child, but just think, for example, like some people, notice that their kid might be getting really obsessive about food. Like they're always, talking about it, or can't wait to eat the next meal, or feel like their kid is eating way too much at a meal, which we'll get to that. And they think that or maybe their kid is even hoarding food, like hiding it in their closet, or, it just feels maybe excessive or obsessive to the parent. And like one of the questions is, well, do you have a consistent mealtime? Because if your child, who barely can know how to read time and barely can reach the pantry to get what they need out of the pantry, even 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, if your child doesn't have a consistent meal being provided for them, or a snack in between, to get them between meals, then their little bodies are stressing out. Because there's no food security. Okay? And when we actually, the terms food security and food insecurity, like the actual terms are talking about like food insecurity is being food poor. You're not getting enough food because of poverty. Food security is you have access to food. You can,
anytime
whatever.
Want, yeah.
So like think about that in your child's little body. Like food doesn't feel secure for them because they don't know when their next meal is going to come. And so it might look like overeating at a meal, or hoarding snacks, or, obsessing about when the next mealtime is. And so that's just one example of like not having consistent meal times and how that can affect your child and their little bodies and the stress that it can cause them, but also the behaviors that come out of it. So we set the table. Again, I can flesh these out like a lot, but providing for our kids is our responsibility as parents. And so that probably means we need to make sure that we're providing for ourselves. Not necessarily first, you do it all at one time. You provide for everybody together. You figure it out with your spouse, if you have one, and, making sure that, everyone's getting fed. And, it doesn't have to be 5-course meals. It doesn't have to be this elaborate thing. And there'll be some other things that we'll talk about on that note, but just set the table means you have to have some intention, preparedness, which is what leads me really to the next point of being prepared for meals. And preparing meals for a family is absolutely and utterly exhausting.
Yeah, it is. And I don't even do it, and it exhausts me. No, I look at you at least twice a day and ask what we're having for supper, and you look at me and go, I don't know, what do you want? And then I have to look back at you and go, I don't know, I didn't shop for the groceries. What are my options? And I don't say it like that. No, it's just genuinely, it's just like, I don't know, I haven't thought about it. And what do we have in the house? That thought has
literally never crossed your mind, what we are going to eat for the week. Because that's the responsibility that I've taken on as mom and wife. So whatever your family dynamic and culture is, you work together, you figure out how to work together to make sure that meals are being prepared. And this is where I think it really hits the fan, because it's hard. And we're busy. I say we do, we try not to be too busy, but like families are busy these days. When you have multiple children and multiple extracurricular activities, like,
you just got a lot happening.
And like, how do you have the time to work, send your kid to their activities and, performances and games and stuff that you also are attending? How do you plan and prepare those meals? And then do you ever actually get to sit around the table and eat? So like, in all of this, I see this. I know that that's a real thing. But we have to figure something out. And it does not have to be a meal around the table every single night. We talked about this in Habits of the Household. But if you got one night of the week, obviously we think that eating around the table is important.
Yes.
There's lots of research to back that up, but I don't need to quote that.
One of the downfalls of the family, I forget where it's from, I won't misquote it now, but just one of the downfalls that have happened in the modern Western American family is the fact that we transitioned from meals around a table to meals at a couch or in front of a screen, which now doesn't even have to happen at a couch. We can sit around a table and all be staring at screens. And even that's not food together. And just, that's a whole podcast episode in and of itself.
And that's why I was like, we could definitely like have a whole podcast episode for almost every single kind of point I want to make, because they all go hand in hand.
Ultimately kind of all leads into whether or not it's whether or not the family's able to connect together makes a big difference in then how kids feel about their food and meal times and things like that.
Absolutely. I love to ask people the question, like, what was meal times and food like growing up in your family? And you get all sorts of questions. Answers to that question. And so you have to think about, like, I don't know, maybe that's a good question to ask yourself, like, what do I want my children to think and feel in the future when they look back on time with family and meal times with family? And how food was handled. So the preparedness, I definitely think that this could, we could talk about like tips and stuff here, and I again won't go too much into detail.
No, go for it.
And I'll say this too, like, at any point, I'm still seeing clients until this baby comes, but like at any point someone feels like they need more help, like, reach out to me. That's my job, right? I love working with families too. But okay, so some things that I think work really well. Obviously, you have to figure out your family dynamic and culture and schedule, but definitely prioritize some time around a table. figure out when that can happen. If not once of the week, more than.
It is valuable enough to cut something that currently exists out,
yes.
if that's what you have to do.
Absolutely. And maybe that's also when you can put in some family devotion time too.
Yep.
So that, I'm like, yeah, number one. But as far as like planning, okay, this I have gotten to, just over the past 10 years of us being married, got to have different ways that I go about doing this. You know, when we were first married, I was excited to cook all 3 meals every single day. And I was learning all new recipes. It's actually when Bowls of Life got started as a dietitian, food, almost kind of blogger. And didn't really go far with that, but it turned into something eventually. But, you know, I was like making up new meals and didn't have a whole lot of experience cooking. I'd even taken like a food prep class, like in my college, because that was part of nutrition degree, food preparation and production. But anyways, inexperienced cooking, so kind of learning how to cook. And before we had kids, we even did HelloFresh for a little while, which if you have the money for it and you need that sort of convenience and support, like, I'm for it, because not only is it, you know, helpful and yummy foods, you learn a lot about food and cooking. Yeah. So I learned so much about food and cooking when we did HelloFresh for not quite a year. But then, you know, realized, okay, budget wise, this is not super smart. And so I'm just giving my experience here. And so then start adding children, and first it was easy. First child, not a problem. Yeah. But as we gained more children, the planning and prepping did become harder. And so we're still, you know, not quite in the role of like having to go out to ball games and practices and performances and all that during the week. But the little bit of experience we did have with that this year was soccer shots. Yep. And, you know, I'm the type of person that I may get other things wrong. This house may be a daggum mess, but you know what? We gonna eat, we gonna have a meal, and we gonna have a snack. We're not gonna leave this house without food or a plan for food. And so, we had soccer shots, and so I would cook burgers, or I would make sure that we'd have a meal, because we were going for like 5:30 to 7:30. Yeah. No, honestly, before that, 5 to 8 with travel.
That's really more time. Yeah.
So I was like, well, that's our meal time. Yep. And so we picnicked at soccer shots, you know, and I was like, this is doable. Now, again, I know that's probably compared to what other people, you know, have going on, but and it did take, like, I had to start getting food cooked like early. But, you know, kind of that's been our experience. And so, you know, I think figuring out what you have to do first is kind of figure out like how many meals you need to be preparing in a week. And if like eating out is a part of it, then you have to think about that too. Well, yeah, we're going to eat out this night and this night because we're going to be out there and there, you know. If you don't have the budget for that, then you have to be really creative and find the time, or prepare things ahead of time, or find, you know, more convenient type items. Yeah. But, you know, I think you got to take an inventory. Like, what does our family eat normally and regularly? And that's where your starting point is. I think a lot of people, they automatically want this like menu and this meal plan like right away, but they don't stop and think like, what do we actually eat and what do we actually need? And then that's where your grocery list comes from. You know, so let's not be going into the grocery store without a plan, without any sort of an idea. That is so stressful to me, walking into a grocery store without an idea of like what I need to get.
I just feel the buggy and just keep feeling it.
So stresses me out.
And just add some more things, and then I get up to the register, like,
should have got this or that, and then the price tag.
Yeah, the price tag's what I'm owing.
Yeah. So anyways, you'll save a lot of money, but you'll also just be less stressed, and you'll have a better idea. And then, you know, figuring out what is more convenient. Is it rotisserie chicken instead of like worrying about getting uncooked chicken and figuring out when and how you're going to cook it? Right. You know, making it simple. Is it a meat and 2 sides, or is it this more elaborate kind of casserole, one pot dish? I love the one pot dishes, so that sometimes it feels easier to do like a protein and 2 sides. But then I have 45 pans on the stove, and I'm not okay with that.
Yep.
I would rather all the things go into one pan or one dish or one pot and cook together. And then we eat it.
Yep.
And to me, those are more tasty type meals anyways. But I've also learned the art of the simplicity of chicken tenders that I'm I have the recipe on our website.
Yep.
Chicken tenders with some broccoli and, some sort of carbohydrate, like mashed potatoes or something, The simplicity in that actually does kind of take off a lot of the pressure of planning. You do have the cleanup later though.
Right, yeah.
But you always have to clean, so that's not anything to be worried about.
Always.
So my tip there is just like kind of know what your family eats and then making like the plan from there, the grocery store plan, and then figuring out, it doesn't necessarily have to be on Monday we're going to eat this. It's just knowing like, hey, we always have chicken tenders in our freezer so that like I can pull those out and make a dish super easy. And then have more of like a rotation of your meals. Some people do weekly rotations, like literally what they eat Sunday through Saturday repeats the next week. Or it's like a similar kind of thing. It's like always Taco Tuesday, even if maybe it's something kind of different, it's still in that realm.
Right.
Have theme nights like Mediterranean, Mexican, spaghetti, pasta, whatever.
The guy that comes and has, we call it family supper with us most weeks. He's probably only eaten like 8 different meals here in the 2 years he's been coming.
I don't know.
I'm exaggerating,
but
some.
Yeah.
It's more than that. But yeah, no, it's a pretty regular rotation of
I'll be like,
a couple of things. He's
like, you've had this before, but
he knows what to expect.
Yeah. But like if your kids and your family love poppy seed chicken and that sort of thing, like keep that in the rotation. Do that often.
Yep.
Don't make it hard on yourself.
Nope.
Cook things ahead of time. And we started shopping at Sam's this past year, which means you shop in bulk.
Yeah.
And storage wise, that's difficult for us. But it was helpful to not have to think about meat, because I would buy the meat in bulk and put it in the freezer, and our freezer is so tiny. But
it's normal sized.
It feels tiny. But anyways, easy to not have to think about that. We always have chicken tenders.
Yeah.
And again, your meals. So that's preparation. It's exhausting, and still when I'm less planned, which I've been lately, I kind of am like, man, I'm so tired of trying to figure out what we're gonna eat again. And I haven't that didn't used to be that way, but it's gotten more tiring the more children I have, and so just physically I'm tired, but yeah, it's exhausting, but it's still doable, I think. Again, I know everybody's kind of family situation might be a little different, but and this is not a shame thing either. If it's going out to eat, whatever, just have an idea. Just feed your children and yourself. Make sure that you are fed.
Fair. So I'm going to swap your order a little bit because this one just feels like it flows with it. Talk about division of responsibility and getting all of that done, because it's a ton of stuff to do all around food and all that fun jazz. So tell me about it.
Okay, so you're actually misunderstanding.
Oh, different responsibility?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. I'll wait and let you do it in your order.
Yes.
Never mind. Okay.
Well, no, I can go into that because the next point kind of sets that up.
Okay.
So the division of responsibility is about what is the parent's responsibility and what is the child's responsibility. Okay. And so the reason why that is a part of this conversation is because, going back to kind of the next point and even the last point, there's a lot of stress around eating and getting food on the table. And then you have a kid who won't eat the food that you prepared. And you feel slighted because your kid won't eat the food that you prepared, or because you were taught that you were supposed to eat and finish your meals.
Gotta make a happy plate.
Gotta make a happy plate, or in order to get your dessert, you have to finish your plate, which that burns me up, Tyler. When somebody tells my child that they have to finish their plate in order to get something. Mama Bear stays inside, but she wants to come out. Do not tell my child that they have to finish their plate in order to get something. I will talk about that later. But, we have this stress about, what our kids are or are not eating. And then we might have this stress about their growth and their bodies. Are they, growing well? Are they growing too much? We might get worried about them being too thin or too big. Mm-hmm. I could talk about this so much. But with that stress, we've got to find ways to have less stress at meals.
Okay.
And have more peaceful meals. And this is where the division of responsibility comes in.
Okay.
Now, you were thinking division of responsibility, I guess, between maybe like the parents sort of thing. Like who's responsible for this and that. That's a decent thing to talk about too, so we might table that for later.
Okay.
But this is about what is the parent's responsibility in feeding and what is the child's responsibility in feeding, okay? So, this is, again, Ellen Satter. She is a dietitian and a therapist. She is well-practiced and well-researched. She has a lot of evidence to back up this approach, which is called the division of responsibility. And so when we as parents do our jobs with feeding, we have to allow our children to then do his or her job with eating. Okay? So that's a quote. And this is a really no pressure approach, meaning we don't pressure our children when it comes to eating, and that's positive or negative pressure. So I'll kind of talk about the no pressure a little bit as I explain the division of responsibility. So as parents, this is how we sum it up. As parents, we take the lead on the what we feed or eat. When we feed or eat, and where. So what, when, and where. What is the food that you provide? Mm-hmm. When is the time that is provided? And where in your environment are you eating? At the table, in front of the TV, at a ball game?
Yeah.
Whatever. In your bedrooms, separate from everybody, So we are responsible for the what, when, and the where. Okay, I'll flesh that out. The children are responsible for the whether they eat and the how much they eat.
Okay.
They are responsible for their own bodies and what they put in their mouths and how much or whether they do it at all. And I know everybody that has never kind of thought through this before is going, oh, you trust your child to eat the way they're supposed to eat? No. That's why you as the parent provide the what, the when, and the where. If you want your children to eat well, then whatever that is, however you define that as a family, which I think you all need to come together and, have an idea of what that is, because if daddy thinks something and mommy thinks something, it's really confusing for a child.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And it creates issues later on for the child. Okay. And there's a lot more things I could say like we shouldn't do, but I'm not going to get into that. Basically, what you need to know is that it's not about you thinking or trusting that your child is going, like you just let your child make all the decisions and they're going to do it all right. Because we do trust a child's intuition. I absolutely believe that our child is most connected to their intuition more than we are as adults. But that's why we have to steer the ship with the what, the when, and the where. But we are in control of their bodies. We want to be in control.
Sure.
That's our problem.
Absolutely.
That is our problem. We want to be in control. And so, as parents, the what, the when, and the where. So if you want your children to eat a certain way, then you provide that. Okay? You provide, those elements to the meal, and you also do it yourself. You model that. If you're a person who doesn't eat breakfast and you don't feed your children breakfast, then they're going to become a person who doesn't eat breakfast, air quotation marks.
Right.
We've talked about that. Go to a previous episode where we talk about breakfast. But you're setting your child up to not feed themselves by not providing them with breakfast. So you can't trust your child. If you were to give them the option, they're probably going to go choose the donut or whatever. But if you provide a well-balanced, nourished meal, then they get to start the day with the energy that their bodies need to run, think, do, play, and live and survive. Okay. So I'm not saying you let your child just go. You still run the ship. Okay. So the when is important, because we need to have consistent meal times. I'll scream that till the day that I die. Every 3 to 5 hours is like a eating time, right? You have a meal, then a snack, and a meal and a snack, depending on what your day looks like. Don't go too long without eating. Make sure your kids have something to eat so that they don't get hungry, because we know that's a real thing. And if you're wondering why your kid is acting a certain way, you need to ask the question, are they tired or are they hungry? It's probably one of those two. Okay.
Accurate.
And that's true for us as adults as well.
Also accurate.
Okay. So the when is important, because we provide at consistent meal times so that our child doesn't feel insecure when it comes to food, or uncertain when their next meal is going to come. And then the where is important too, because again, if we're in front of the TV or in front of phone screens, distracted, then we can't listen to our bodies, and we can't eat well intuitively, because we're distracted by a screen. So definitely, yes, what, when, and where is our responsibility, but the child is responsible for what goes into their body. And now there are cases where things have already begun to intervene in a child's intuition. That could be the stress in a family, a divorce going on, or an illness that has happened. So intuitively, there are things that could have intervened with your child. But I'm just kind of generally speaking here. Most of the time, generally speaking, as majority of the people, our children know what they need as far as like how much to eat. Now that doesn't mean, we have kids who are very like active. Like we have a friend who talks about how her child will not like stay at the table for very long and will end up not eating because they want to go play, they want to get distracted. That's where the when and the where is still a part of that. It's still it's a boundary that we sit at the table for a certain amount of time and we are eating together. But you're not, forcing your child to eat. That's, not so great. And I'll kind of talk about why, but let them be in charge of what they eat and how much they eat. Sorry, not what they eat, whether they eat and how much they eat. So if they, choose to not eat the green beans on the plate. Can you imagine as an adult being forced to eat something that you're uncertain about, that you don't, because you've only maybe tried it once in your life, or, only been exposed to it a number of times. Not
great.
And being force
fed something.
Being forced that, right? Yeah. So a poor child, having to be forced to eat something, like, that's just not fair.
Yeah.
And it backfires when we say, you gotta eat your vegetables, or you need to eat your food or whatever. And then we're putting all this pressure on them to eat. And a lot of times that's what creates the stress at the table. You are causing the stress when you do that sort of stuff. And so, the thing with this is like, don't also feed your kids unsafe foods, meaning, well, I probably shouldn't use the word safe there, because, I know that can mean many different things, but like for a child, like you think a green bean or a blueberry, like they sometimes taste different every time you eat them, depending on where they came from, who made them, were they sour in season, whatever. But like a cracker or a piece of bread or mashed potato, like it's always pasta, it's always the same,
right?
And so that feels safe to them. So always provide them with foods that they can fill up on, and be okay with it, even if it's a carbohydrate. The kids need that energy, the carbohydrate energy. So absolutely. They don't actually need as much protein as they do carbohydrates. And I'm not getting into that, but like they need protein, obviously, right, sure. But like when you actually look at the grams and stuff, it's way more carbohydrates than it is protein. So just because you have a thing in your mind about carbohydrates as an adult, that's what's messing with your intuition. Don't force that on your kid.
Yep.
Okay. So Anyways, make sure there is a food that your child feels comfortable eating, okay, and can fill up on. Obviously, there's still boundaries. Like, hey, we've only cooked so much. There's 5 of us around the table. You can't eat all of it, okay? But, you know, that's where, again, as parents, we still have boundaries. There's freedom in the boundaries. And I guess just reiterate, because when people hear the division of responsibility, they think that's no boundaries. When they hear no pressure, they think that's no boundaries. There's still boundaries, right? But you're not pressuring and forcing your child to put something in their body that they're not ready for yet. Okay. And the way that can kind of backfire is a fight at the table. You have stress, or your child, they won't eat, and now you're forcing, you can't leave the table until you eat. The people that tell me that was their upbringing have lots of stress around food, or issues around food. Or like, it was just like, they think about it negatively. They think about the table and eating with their family as not a good memory. Yeah. Or you have the child who now finishes their plate to earn some sort of affirmation from their parents, or to earn the dessert. Now, it can be one thing. I actually like to, most of the time, serve the dessert or the treat or whatever you want to call it with the meal. Yeah. And sometimes that's not always the case. Like ice cream, for example, that needs to stay frozen until you eat it. Right. So it might be, hey, like, we're going to eat first, but like, don't forget we are having ice cream. So we'll have that, after the meal, but it's not an earning situation. You're not earning your ice cream. Yeah. So you're taking and if your kid is obsessing over like a treat food, a sweet food or a dessert type item, it's because you've put it on too high of a pedestal. You've made it this thing that is, it's forbidden fruit. And so now it's like, oh, I have to, this broccoli is not good, but that food is. Yep. So I'm not going to eat this broccoli, but now you're forcing me to eat this broccoli. So then I'm going to force myself to eat this broccoli so that I can earn that ice cream. And the thing is, try it. And I'm not saying it's going to happen necessarily on the first time, but put the candy with the meal. Your kid will likely eat it first. There's nothing wrong with that. You eat dessert first sometimes as an adult. So don't look at your child and say that's not okay. Okay? But you can provide that treat or whatever on the plate with the meal, and you'll probably actually be very surprised at the other things that they still eat on the plate. Yep. Whether it be candy or a piece of cake or whatever. And it's even surprised me as someone who fully believes this. But I never say anything about you have to eat your vegetables before you get that cake. And I don't like that, because it teaches my child that they have to, first of all, it puts that food on a pedestal. And so now that's a forbidden fruit that I either have to earn or I have to sneak, or I have to hoard, because I can only get it if I do the right thing, rather than just having permission to eat it when I want it. And when you have permission, this is as adults too, when you have permission, when you give yourself permission or give your child permission to eat a food, whether it be, whatever, like candy or whatever, it takes the magic away from it. And so when you have yourself or a child obsessed with a treat or a meal or like a sweet or whatever, we've got to take the magic away from it. Stop making it so special. Just make it like every other food on the plate, and make it as easily accessible. Because then it loses its power over you and over your child. Anyways, that's deeper than I meant to go. But, talking about just forcing, I don't like that phrase of forcing your kid to eat their meal or eat something on their plate before they get, because I don't think I don't think we have to earn food. God made us with limits, and one of our limits is that we need energy and food to survive. And we get that energy through food, so we need that to survive. You don't earn that. You just have to have it. Yeah. And our body has a beautiful way of working it all out, which is why I say kids have a great intuition. If they've been really active that day, they might be way more hungry, but they also may not be. If they're growing, they might be more hungry than if they're not growing, like in a growth spurt. Well, they're always growing, but growth spurts kind of happen. If they're stressed or not feeling well, they may not eat as much, or they may turn to food for comfort. The thing is, the body really does know And we just have to trust it more. And I trust children more than I do adults. So when it comes to this sort of thing, like the intuition. But I still, obviously, eating is still a learned behavior in the sense of making sure you're feeding yourself consistently and balanced meals. If you're not, again, this kind of goes back to the what, like if you're not feeding a balanced meal, that is going to mess up their ability to have a good whether and how much. Does that make sense? So if we're not feeding that, let's say we're only feeding them, like, I'm just use donuts as an example just because that's an easy one. But if we're only feeding them donuts at breakfast, then their whether they eat and how much they eat is probably going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Not as good, like not as intuitive come the next time, because they may be starving and that's their intuitive kind of coming out though. It's kind of their intuition coming out because they're like, they didn't get enough energy at breakfast. True, they didn't get enough balanced energy. So they're starving. And so their body's trying to make up for it to get enough. Or now it's like they have this like, kind of draw towards more sugar. So, it's like an expectation dopamine kind of thing. Like that's the thing that I eat in the morning. And so I don't, know that my body feels better with something different. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that. I won't, that can get a little hairy, to try and talk about right now, but I saw your face kind of turning. Do you have questions?
No, I'm tracking with you. I'm here with you. I've heard you talk on most of the things in one way or another. So am I making sense? Okay. Yes. Okay. So I might read a few other things on the division of responsibility, flesh them out a little bit more, and then we'll go from there. So your jobs as parents with feeding are to choose and prepare the food, right? We're not putting that off on our children, which I do think once they get a little bit older, including them in that process is healthy and helpful for them, so that they can learn about grocery shopping and how to balance the meals and all that sort of thing. But you choose and prepare the food, provide regular meals and snacks, make eating times pleasant, step by step show your child by example how to behave at family mealtime. So this is behavior too. This is not just like what they're eating or how they're eating, but it's about being polite and having manners and those sorts of things too. Like we sit at the table. It's an expectation to sit at the table until everyone's finished, or whatever it is in your family. So you're showing them. Be considerate of your child's lack of food experience. I like that one. Be considerate of your child's lack of food experience. Okay. Because like they're children, right? They have very little experience with food, without catering to their likes and dislikes. So here's, where sometimes even division of responsibility might feel a little too strict, because not catering to the likes and dislikes would be like, okay, I understand that my child has little experience with food, but that doesn't mean every time we have a meal, I'm going to make them their favorite hot dog and mac and cheese or whatever. Yeah. Because then you're only teaching them how to eat that. You're not teaching them how to eat other things. So always provide the foods that you want them to eat. If you want them to be vegetable eaters, provide vegetables. If you want them to be eaters that have balanced meals, provide balanced meals. Majority of the time. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time. Never has to be perfect. But so we're not catering to their likes and dislikes all the time. We're providing a food that they can eat and feel comfortable filling up on, but we're also providing them with foods they say they don't like. How many times have I put green beans on Luna's plate and she said, I don't like those. I'm not going to eat them. I say, that's okay, but we're always still going to put them on your plate. That's my job. Yep. You don't have to eat it. And she actually, I told her about how when I was a kid, the way that I started eating green beans was with ketchup, and she liked it with ketchup. So be considerate of your child's lack of food experience without catering to likes and dislikes. And this can even look like, the whole they don't eat anything, but then they ask for a peanut butter jelly sandwich
2 seconds after mealtime is over, or, before they go to bed or whatever. There are expectations you just have to hold in your family, and boundaries that you have to hold in your family, and you have to decide how far you want to go with that.
Yep.
As far as you can't really know if your child's really hungry or not, but if they didn't eat their meal, then that's the consequence of their action.
Yeah.
Because we have to also teach our children how to eat a meal, even if it's not their favorite.
Right.
Because they might go to a friend's house or a family's house and be provided a meal. Well, I'm sorry, you don't need to skip that meal just because you don't like it. You need to figure out how to fill up on something, or have a snack, that's going to help you from being too hungry. But, there's that too. And again, you may say sorry, kitchen's closed. And that's kind of what Ellen Satter does teach. Yeah. Kitchen is closed, water only. So you just kind of have to decide within your own family dynamic what works best there. But they'll learn, kids will learn. And that's the thing. They're going to push the boundaries, and they're going to cry and fight and whine about it. But if you kind of stick to your boundaries, they're going to learn that you mean what you say, and that you're not giving empty threats or empty words. And when mom says that nothing is being served after mealtime, she means it. But if you think there needs to be a designated snack time after dinner because of the way that your day falls and bedtime falls, then absolutely provide that. But it's an expectation of that's later, so you want to eat your meal now. So okay. That was actually the next point. Don't let your child have food or beverages except for water between meal and snack times. So again, that can be fairly, that can be very routine and strict, but this is the thing. It allows your child to come, and this is us too. We need to be able to come to meals hungry and leave meals full.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to do that, which means that consistent eating pattern and giving that time in between meals and snacks without eating. We don't want to be grazing all day. If your kid is grazing all day, they're either going to be eating too much, or they're not eating enough. They're not listening to their body at all, because they haven't had those break times that their body needs to digest and absorb and do all the things, hormones and all that. So yeah, I do think I think that is really important. Again, you just might have to figure out how that looks for your family. Let your child grow into the body that is right for him and her. So you have to trust that if you're doing the what, when, and where in the way that you think is right, then you have to trust that they will grow into the body that God intended them to grow into. And stressing about their body weight, if they're not having some major falling off the curve of their growth curve kind of thing, then there's no really reason for you to stress. I say falling off the curve, meaning whether it be weight going up or weight going down. And ladies, let's just remember, and men too, let's just remember that our girls, when they get close to puberty, and boys do this too, they grow out before they grow up. And so you might notice some body changes around puberty that you might think is not right, but you need to give their body time to continue to grow up. So that, and I mean literally up, so that their body can kind of distribute the weight the way that God intended for their body to distribute weight. Okay. So part of our job as parents when it comes to feeding is to trust our child to eat, and to trust that they will eat the amount that he or she needs, that they will learn to eat the food that you enjoy. Again, that comes from modeling, and that they will grow predictably in the way that is right for them, and they will learn to behave well at mealtimes. But we can only trust our children when we are doing our job.
Right.
I mean, truthfully. So that's not to say that every bit of your child's behavior and actions are a complete reflection on you. They kind of are, but not not everything, right? So there are cases, and there are cases for sure, but
you're setting the expectations and letting time do its thing.
Yes.
You don't set the expectation once, and just expect it to be that way the next time.
Absolutely.
And that's not a real expectation.
Yeah, and even if you're okay, I'm going to do what Virginia says, and you do it the first time, and you do it for a week even, and it's not working out quite yet, you didn't give it enough time.
Yeah.
So anyways, so yeah, So let's see. I'll talk about. Did I talk about the pressure? I talked about pressure a little bit. You did. I guess the positive and negative, just kind of being mindful that even positive pressure is pressure. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it be like, good job, you finished your meal. Then now all your child wants to hear is good job when they finish a meal. Well, is that really the motivation you want behind your child finishing a meal? Or do you want them to finish a meal because that's what their body, their appetite and all that said they needed to do, you know?
Any tips, thoughts on how to speak positively without it being positive pressure then?
There's no reason for you to say good job or you didn't do well when it comes to eating.
Yeah. No, I don't mean that, but how do you encourage your kid? Like, what are some things to say around
with eating?
Questions to ask. Yeah.
I think we just model eating the way that we want. Like I kind of said that already. Verbally, not a whole lot. I just don't think there's really any reason to be like hounding on one child about what they are and are not eating, positively or negatively. So maybe it's more about, like you said, like how do you talk about food and eating around the table? I think it's like, hey, how do you like that food, or do you like that food, or just asking questions about what did you think about that meal, or are your carrots crunchy? Mine are crunchy. Are yours crunchy? That can be one way to get your child to like try something if you want them to try something. But you can talk about the colors of the foods and what that might indicate. Like orange indicates beta carotene, which is
for sure,
which is vitamin A. It leads to vitamin A, which is good for eyesight. So it's kind of fun to talk about how carrots and sweet potatoes improve your vision. You know, so it's kind of fun. You talk about,
does it improve it or does it maintain it? I'm asking genuinely.
Yeah, no, it I think more is like it prevents, so it maintains and prevents it getting worse. Okay. I think improve though, even like night vision, like being able to see in the dark. It works well with that. But no, like if you have like terrible vision, it's not gonna like turn it around. But like that kind of stuff I think is fun, and depending on their age, you know, talking about the colors of the meals, you know, details as far as like protein, carbohydrates. I don't worry so much about that when they're younger. You might kind of indicate like, yeah, we like to have a protein, a carb, and a vegetable and some fat. You know, might talk about like what you're eating, talk about what you're eating, what it looks like, what it tastes like. And I think that's all. It's neutral. Mm-hmm. So you're looking for neutral language, not positive or negative. It's neutral, which think about that and that will make sense. You know, negative is like, if you don't eat that food, then you're grounded or you're not going to get your ice cream or whatever. Positive is, good job. You finished your meal. Now you can get that ice cream. And even leaving the ice cream and stuff off, just good job, or, you know, well, you didn't finish your meal, you know, even our tone can kind of be it. So keeping it neutral where it doesn't like give them any sort of like, I don't know, like positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. Other kind of neutral ways to talk about food, again, that's just like helping them learn. Again, it's just like, I said that twice, sorry. As they get a little older, you might talk about more details with the nutrients. If you don't know those things, you may not be talking about that. But you know, cooking and bringing your kids in on cooking and preparing meals, because as they become teenagers, they're going to have more freedom. I think we give them too much freedom. I think families do give them too much freedom. But if you can be present with them eating as much as possible, or help teach them how to eat well when they are by themselves. They're teenagers. They're still going to choose things, you know, when they're on their own. Yeah. That you probably wouldn't choose for them. Like the box of Cheez-Its, you know, or whatever you were talking about earlier.
My mom was there.
Yeah, but she wasn't like overseeing you eat or anything, or eating with you. So when it kind of happens like that, whatever, you you move through those seasons and it's fine. I think we think that one meal or one way of eating for a time is going to completely like derail our children's health, and that's just not true.
Turned out okay. I ate lots of boxes of Cheez-Its.
I mean, you know, yeah, you really are.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But you know, yeah, health is, you know, and what we eat is a big deal, but like it's also not that big of a deal too. Like it doesn't affect you that like quickly. If your child ends up eating a box of Cheez-Its for a meal, like they'll be okay. If you do that as an adult, you'll be okay. You're not going to feel great, but like you didn't just like cause yourself, you know, some bad health complication. But anyways, to answer your question, yeah, I think I think just like keeping conversation light and, just, you know, like talk about other things at the table. And here's another thing that we implement is like, I don't allow my kids to say ew or yuck at the table. And when I say I don't allow, that means when they say it, because they will, right. I'll say, hey, we don't say that. Let's say yes, please, no, thank you. Or I don't want this food. You can even say, I don't like it. Like, do not be personally offended by your child not liking your food or not liking something that you put before them. You may have been taught that. You know, but let's not teach that to our children. It's okay to not like a food. Now, again, you may teach them how to handle saying that, but we don't have to like it just to please the person who made it for us. Now, again, we don't want to be rude. We don't teach our children to be rude, right? So I even, you know, when, especially when they're at like family and friends' houses, like we don't want to say, oh, I don't like this, or ew, or I don't eat that. You just choose to eat it or not to eat it. Okay. And if it's like, yes, please, I'll take some more. No, thank you. I don't want any more. Like that's all you have to say. So you kind of teach your kid manners as far as like how to talk about food in that way. Because again, that's taking out the negativity and keeping it neutral. Like, no, thank you. I don't want that. There's nothing, you know, wrong with that. So that's one other thing. And so again, it's when I say I don't allow, it's just when they say that redirect, you know, or not even redirect, like it's just like say like, oh, let's try that again. No, thank you. Okay. And yeah, just keep the conversation fun and light and, you know, let mealtimes be a peace-giving situation, not a stressful situation. So if you're making it stressful, like think about what it is you're doing. If it feels stressful, think about what it is you could be doing to make it stressful. If it's like your teenager and they're the ones causing the stress, then that's a different story. You know, for whatever reason, whatever they're doing, brooding or whatever, what have you. Then that's a conversation at a different time.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah. I didn't really talk about like what to necessarily put on the plate, but this is like always my like kind of disclaimer. I always say I talk about the how we eat more than I talk about the what.
Yes.
And you know, what we eat in our family may be vastly different from somebody else's family, but that's what's healthy for them, and this is what's healthy for us. Whether that is healthy for our literal health, because like there's things that we don't typically have in our house because I have the diabetes. So, you know, it's like there are things that I don't have in my household that you may have in your household. Mm-hmm. And I don't put that off on my children. It's like you have to have a sugar-free beverage. We just don't have those, you know?
Yeah, that was a literal conversation.
Sugar, like a Coca-Cola
your mom the other night or other day when she was here, she was asking, oh, do you have this? No. Do you have that? No. Well, what do you have to drink? Water. There's also milk.
Yeah, which unfortunately I didn't have juice. I'd normally always have juice for low blood sugars, but it was like
happened to be out.
Just typically don't have some of those items, but that's just the norm for us. And again, healthy could also refer to your budget. That's what's healthy for our budget. That's what's healthy for our family.
And going along with some of your things, it's what's healthy for our mental health right now. This is what we can manage to provide.
Yes.
It's not a 5-course meal. It's chicken tenders and broccoli, and that's it. Yeah,
or it's, you know, Chick-fil-A, whatever. Like, whatever, you know, that's what's healthy for your family at that time. And so, you can't always keep your eyes on your own plate.
Yeah.
You know, like stop looking at other families or Instagram videos thinking that you need to look like that. You do what's right for your family.
Instagram's not as much about food anymore. I guess not. I think video killed that.
Yeah, there are still some what I eat in a day videos.
Yeah. It probably shows up.
That's
in
more individual.
More
there's more. Oh, I'm not on it anymore.
That's true.
But yes, there's a lot of like dietitians that are like, stop watching those videos and stop making those videos, because what you eat in a day has nothing to do with what I eat in a day and what I need to eat in a day. Right. And a lot of the what I eats in a day are like unrealistic, or they're extremely eating disordered.
Yeah.
So,
love it.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like that was like way shorter than I thought it was going to be.
You just talked basically by yourself for an hour, so okay. I don't know that was short.
Oh, sorry, listeners.
No, I'm not saying that either. It was all good. But yeah, no. You covered a lot of ground. You want me to sum it up, or you sum it up?
No, because you might say something wrong.
Oh.
Then I have to correct you. Feeding is parenting. So the way that we feed our children is a part of parenting and how we form our children's future and their adulthood, which means that we are responsible for certain things when it comes to feeding our children. And specifically, I recommend that the responsibility for the parent is the what you provide, the when you provide, and the where you provide it. And then for the child, it's whether and how much they eat. And of course, there's more to that as you think about it, and in your family dynamic, your family culture, and all that sort of stuff. And being mindful of your child's lack of experience, but also not, catering to every single whim and likes and dislikes. You're steering the ship. Okay. And your job is important, because then it helps their job go a lot better. They can actually take control of their role. Yeah, control of their role when we're doing our job. And there's I don't want this to ever feel like, shame filled or anything. Anybody to feel shame or guilty or anything like that. I don't actually like to use those words around when it comes to food, anyways. But if you feel like you're not doing a good job, because of what you heard on this podcast, think about it. Like, what are you doing? What do you feel like will be better for your family? B, do the best you can. What are you doing, Tyler?
Best I can.
Doing my best.
Sorry, you lost me. I was in a different thought. Sorry.
That's like our family motto these days.
That's what I tell the kids, especially when Virginia's not around, and I'm just looking at them as they're exploding. I'm just trying my best. I need you to help me right now. I'm doing my best.
I've gotten where I say doing my best a lot too. And just like, again, teaching your children how to become a competent eater is actually one of the words they use. But yeah, competent adult eater, which means you may need to work on your own competency when it comes to eating. And you know what? It's not as complicated as we like to make it, or as the wellness culture makes it. So if you really need help, I'm working for a few more months. So you can reach out to me at bowlsoflife.com. There is a nutrition tab that you can reach out to me if you just really feel like your family needs some support in this area.
Love it. Well, thank you guys for being a part of the episode today. If you got any thoughts or questions, like Virginia said, reach out, bowlsoflife.com. And while you are there, here's the thing I want you to do this go round, because I know you visit our website regularly. You're there at least once, twice, 10 times a week. I want you to hop onto our email list, join that email list. You'll find that down at the very bottom. It says join our email community or something close to that. You tap that, put in your email and your name, and that way every time we drop something new, whether that's a podcast or a recipe or all the things in between, you guys will be the first ones to hear it. You won't miss out on it. Thank you for joining us on this podcasting journey today. We'll see you again soon.